You scratched my Porsche with that lousy fire truck. Even if you went bankrupt, you still couldn't afford the damages. Outside the fire scene, the richly adorned woman's illegally parked car was tightly blocking the fire access lane. I said anxiously, "The fire upstairs is out of control. If we don't get in now, the people inside will die." In my previous life, I forcibly rammed her car out of the way and rescued her 2 children from the sea of fire. She, however, cried to the media that I had taken advantage of the situation to extort her and even touched her underage daughter's body. My family and I was subjected to a nationwide online mob attack. My mother was forced by fans who didn't know the truth into drinking pesticide and died a tragic death. And I, too, jumped off a building in despair. When I opened my eyes again, I saw that woman once more, spreading her arms to block my car. This time I wasn't in a hurry. I pulled out the car key and called the police. You're right, protect the scene and wait for traffic police. After all, the people being burned alive upstairs were her entire family. You scratched my Porsche with that crappy fire truck. You couldn't afford to pay for it even if you sold everything you own. I jerked my eyes open, and the feel of the steering wheel was frighteningly real. Outside the car window, a woman covered head to toe in luxury brand logos was standing with her arms spread wide, blocking the huge red fire truck with all her might. Her brand new pink Porsche 911 was brazenly parked across the yellow and black fire lane grid lines. "Captain, the fire is urgent and this person won't move." Team member Xiao Xiao in the passenger seat was so anxious that he was breaking out in a sweat. He unbuckled his seatbelt and was about to rush out. I grabbed his shoulder and held him back. A strong wave of dizziness hit me, accompanied by the weightless sensation of falling from a building in my previous life. And my stomach churned violently. I had been reborn. I had returned to the scene of the fire that had completely ruined my life. In my previous life, faced with this arrogant woman, I ordered the Porsche to be forcibly rammed open in order to save people. Later, I was burned badly in the fire with a layer of skin scorched off, and I risked my life to carry her 2 children out of the duplex on the top floor. But what was the result? Instead of expressing even a single word of gratitude, she cried pitifully in front of the media cameras and accused me of using the rescue as an excuse not only to crash her limited edition sports car, but also to grope her 14-year-old daughter amid the chaos. Her soldiers are just psychopathic. When they see little girls from rich families, they can't control their lower bodies. With a single remark she made in her live stream, I became a rat in the street, denounced and attacked by the entire internet. Netizens dug up my home address. They sent me dead mice and splashed red paint on my front door. My elderly mother, who suffered from heart disease, was cornered in a wet market by several streamers claiming the banner of justice, where she was insulted and shoved. In order not to burden me, my mother drank half a bottle of Paraquat. After struggling painfully in the ICU for 3 days, she died a tragic death, and I, in the despair of having nowhere to appeal and being unable to defend myself, leapt from the fire tower. "Captain Lu, are you deaf? Hurry up and kick her out." Xiao Zhao's shout pulled me back to reality. I took a deep breath and let go of Xiao Zhao's hand that I was holding down. "Everyone, shut off the engine and stand by." My voice was so calm that even I found it unfamiliar. Xiao Xiao froze, his eyes widening in disbelief. "Captain, what did you say?" "There's a level 3 fire on the upper floor." I ignored him and directly pulled out the fire truck's ignition key. I pushed open the car door and stepped out, meeting the woman's face thickly coated in foundation. Well, finally decided to get out. As soon as she saw me get out of the car, the woman immediately stormed up to me in her sky-high heels, her fingers painted with bright red nail polish nearly poking into my eyes. Look at my paint." She pointed at the tiny white scratch on the Porsche's bumper. Her features twisted as she screamed. "This is a paint job my husband specially ordered for me from Italy. You bunch of broke losers driving junkers. What are you going to pay with?" I looked at her coldly, no longer frantically trying to explain the fire situation like I had in my previous life. "Ma'am, this is a fire lane. Please move your car immediately. Move your damn head. Your mother's." The woman swore rudely without the slightest politeness, spit flying everywhere. Don't think you're something special just because you're wearing a uniform. Do you know who my husband is? Lin Duchong of Lin Shire Building Materials. If you can't come up with a 1 million compensation today, no one is getting through here. She put her hands on her hips like a hen guarding its feed and stood firmly in front of the car. Xiao Xiao could not hold back any longer. He jumped out of the car, pointed at the thick smoke billowing from upstairs, and shouted, "Are you crazy? The upstairs is on fire. Even a minute late and someone could die. None of my damn business." The woman rolled her eyes dramatically and reached up to brush back her exquisitely permed hair. "Is a few dead people more important than my Porsche? Besides, the ones who died were other people, not my family. Why should I give way for them?" Her inhumane remarks made all of the firefighters present suck in a sharp breath. Quite a few nearby residents had already gathered to watch the commotion, all pointing and whispering in this direction. How can this woman be like this? She's being completely unreasonable. Exactly. She even dares to block the fire lane. Hurry up and move the car. Hearing the crowd's comments, the woman didn't restrain herself at all. Instead, she became even more arrogant. She took the latest model phone out of her Hermes bag and directly dialed a number. "Hello, honey. I'm being bullied by a bunch of disgusting security guards downstairs in the residential complex. Yes, it's those guys driving the fire truck. They not only hit my car, but they were mean to me, too. Come here with some people right away. Today, we have to skin them alive." After hanging up the phone, she smugly raised her chin and looked at me provocatively. "Did you hear that? My husband is bringing people over right away. You bunch of poor losers. Get ready to sell a kidney to pay up." Xiao Xiao was trembling with rage and turned to me. "Captain, we can't wait any longer. Let's work together and flip the car over." I shook my head and took out my phone from my pocket amid everyone's astonished gazes. I dialed 110. "Hello, is this the command center? This is Luchin from Firefighting Unit 1. We are carrying out a rescue mission at Sunshine Premier Community and have encountered a private car maliciously blocking the fire lane. The owner claims we scratched her car, demands 1 million in compensation, and refuses to move it. To preserve the evidence at the scene, we are currently unable to continue. We request that traffic police and officers from the local police station come to the scene immediately to handle the matter." After hanging up the phone, I met the woman's shocked gaze and tugged at the corners of my mouth into a cold smile. "You're right. This car is too expensive. We can't afford to pay for it. So, we called the police and are preserving the scene while waiting for the traffic police to come and determine responsibility." The woman froze for 2 seconds, then let out a shrill mocking laugh. "Good. You know what's good for you. Once the traffic police get here, let's see how you're going to die." Time ticked by second, while the fire alarm overhead let out a heart-stopping shriek. Thick smoke spiraled upward along the building's exterior wall, and the air was already filled with a pungent burnt odor. "Captain, the fire is spreading upward. If we keep dragging this out, the entire top floor is going to burn through." Xiao Jiao stomped anxiously in place, his eyes already red. The other team members also gripped the breaching tools in their hands tightly, their anxious gazes fixed on me. "Hold position." I folded my arms over my chest and leaned against the fire truck's door, my tone completely flat. "But, no buts, that's an order." I sharply cut off Xiao Jiao's words, my icy gaze sweeping across the entire team. "Before the scene is tampered with, no one is allowed to act recklessly. Anyone who dares touch that Porsche without authorization will bear the consequences themselves." The team members were stunned by my uncharacteristic harshness and could only grit their teeth and retreat. In my previous life, it was precisely because of my momentary softness and sense of responsibility that I dragged the entire squadron down into hell with me. This time, I was going to make sure they stood here clean and clear. "Oh, look at you acting all big and bad." Mrs. Lin somehow raised her phone. The camera pointed straight at my face. "Everyone who gets it. Today was seriously one of those days when I should have checked the almanac before going out. I ran into a bunch of thug firefighters." She pinched her voice in a sugary tone toward the screen, sounding so nauseatingly sweet it made people want to gag. "Look, everyone, it's this guy. He's relying on the fact that he drives some lousy public bus to deliberately ram my Porsche. So, now that I've caught you, you're still trying to pull rank and bully me, a helpless woman with a whole bunch of grown men. As she spoke, she kept switching the camera back and forth between the scratch and my face. I watched her clumsy performance coldly, not even bothering to reach out and block the camera. What nonsense are you talking about? It was clearly you who parked illegally in the fire lane. Chow Chow snapped back loudly, unable to hold back his anger. Everyone, listen, they still dare to shout at me. Mrs. Lin immediately put on a pitiful look, and tears came to her eyes at once. I'm just a woman with no strength to even bind a chicken, and they've got so many people surrounding me. I'm so scared. The number of people in her live stream room began to surge wildly. I don't even need to look to know that the barrage comments are definitely full of keyboard warriors being led by her. Why is this firefighter like that? He hit a luxury car and now wants to dodge responsibility. Look into this captain's background. Maybe he's a habitual offender. Poor sister. Support her in fighting for her rights to the end. Watching the barrage of comments scrolling across the screen, Mrs. Lin's smugness was practically overflowing. She simply walked to the front of the Porsche and plopped herself down on it. If the traffic police don't come today, this isn't over. If any of you dare touch me, there are tens of thousands of eyes in my live stream watching. I'll sue you for sexual harassment. Have you stripped of that uniform and kicked out? More and more residents gathered around to watch the commotion. Some people couldn't stand Mrs. Lin's behavior and tried to persuade her in low voices. Little sister, move the car quickly. There really is a fire upstairs, and lives are at stake. Mrs. Lin suddenly turned her head and glared fiercely at the aunt who had spoken. You old thing, who do you think you are? Do you think it's your place to lecture me? So what if they burn to death? It's their own bad luck. Who told them they can't afford villas and insist on living in this crappy high-rise? The woman was scolded until her face turned red, trembling with anger. You, how can you be so vicious? Vicious? I'm just defending my lawful rights. Mrs. Lin lifted her head with righteous confidence. My car paint is imported in its entirety. Can this bunch of paupers afford to pay for it? What if I move my car and they run away? She turned her head and pointed the camera at me again. Captain, right? Get down on your knees right now and kowtow 3 times in front of everyone in the live stream, admitting that you scratched my car. As long as you kowtow, I'll be merciful and give you a gap to pass through. As soon as she finished speaking, Xiao Xiao could no longer hold back and rushed forward in a single bound. Fuck your damn grandpa. What the hell are you? Daring to make our captain kneel. Xiao Xiao, fall back. I reacted quickly and grabbed Xiao Xiao by the back collar, dragging him back forcefully. Captain, this woman is too much of a bully. Xiao Xiao was on the verge of tears, clenching both fists tightly. I told you to stand down. I intensified my tone, my gaze carrying an unquestionable authority. Seeing this, Mrs. Lin laughed even more wildly. Oh, want to hit someone? Come on, hit here. She pointed at her own face and leaned forward arrogantly. Hit me and you'll never have a chance to turn things around for the rest of your lives. She's right. We can't have any physical contact with her. I took a deep breath, pushed Xiao Xiao behind me, and stared coldly at Mrs. Lin. Ms. Lin, I refuse your request. We've already called the police. Everything will be handled after the traffic police arrive. You Mrs. Lin saw that I wasn't falling for it and ground her teeth in anger. Fine, you've got guts. Let's see how long you can keep this up. She simply got out of the car, opened the door, took out a sun umbrella from inside, and opened it. This lousy cigarette smell is disgusting. It's ruining my lungs. Can you afford to compensate me? She wrinkled her nose in disgust and actually took out a half-finished ice raspberry blackcurrant drink from the car, sipping it slowly and unhurriedly. The fire upstairs was growing more and more intense, and the sound of shattering glass rang out from time to time. I raised my wrist and glanced at my watch. A full 15 minutes had already passed since the fire broke out. Good. It's about time. Boom. A muffled blast came from overhead, accompanied by an astonishing crash of shattering glass. A burning remnant of a curtain fell from the sky and slammed heavily into the flower bed less than 3 m from the Porsche, sending sparks flying. The crowd erupted in a wave of startled cries and retreated one after another. Mrs. Lin let out a frightened scream and staggered backward, the ice-shaken red plum blackcurrant drink in her hand spilling all over the ground. Are you all dead or something? Didn't you see something fall? What if it had hit my car? Still shaken, she pointed at us and unleashed a furious string of abuse. I didn't even lift my eyelids, still keeping my arms crossed over my chest. Mrs. Lin, you were the one who wouldn't let us pass. You. Mrs. Lin was furious and was just about to fly into a rage when my phone suddenly vibrated. The words Director Chin flashed on the screen. I pressed the answer button, and before I could say a word, a deafening roar came from the other end of the phone. Lu Chin, what are you up to? The command center says you've been blocked downstairs by a private car for 15 minutes. The fire upstairs is about to burn through the roof. Are you watching a show downstairs? I moved my phone a little farther away and spoke in a calm tone. Director Chin, the situation at the scene is complicated. A Porsche is illegally parked blocking the fire access route. The owner claims we scratched her car, demands $1 million in compensation, and threatens to expose us on live stream, and accuses us of sexual harassment, refusing to move the car in order to avoid escalating the conflict. I've already requested support from traffic police and the local police station. Nonsense, Director Chin roared into the phone. Lives are at stake. Who cares whether it's a Porsche or a damn tiger? Force it open. If anything happens, the Bureau will take responsibility. In my previous life, Director Chen said the same thing. But when public opinion came crashing down like a tidal wave, and when Mrs. Lin cried on camera that I had taken advantage of the chaos to threaten her underage daughter, the Bureau, in order to calm public outrage, suspended me immediately. Even Director Chun slammed the table at an internal meeting and scolded me for doing things without using my brain and bringing disgrace to the fire department. Director Chin. I cut off his roar. The traffic police haven't arrived yet, and responsibility at the scene can't be determined. If we force the vehicle now, and the other side accuses us of violent law enforcement during the live stream, the consequences would be unimaginable. My words caught Director Chin off guard, and he clearly also had concerns about the impact of the live stream. Just then, Mrs. Lin spotted me talking on the phone and lunged at me like a mad dog. It's your boss, right? Give it here. I'm going to file a complaint against you, you pervert. She snatched my phone away and shouted into the microphone. Hello, you're his boss, right? I'm telling you, your subordinate not only scratched my Porsche and refused to pay for it, but also tried to hit someone. I'm live streaming right now. Hundreds of thousands of people are watching. You have to fire this Lu today, or I'll make a huge scene and make sure none of you get away with it. The Director Chan on the other end of the phone clearly hadn't expected to run into such a shrew. After being stunned for a few seconds, his tone immediately softened. Ma'am, please calm down first. I'm the Deputy Director of the Fire Department. We can work out any issue through discussion. Discuss my ass. Mrs. Lin cut him off arrogantly. 1 million, not a cent less. And have that Lu guy kneel down and apologize to me right now. Director Chin fell silent on the phone. A moment later, his voice came back, carrying a hint of fatigue and compromise. Lu Chin, you take the call first. I took back the phone and turned on the speakerphone. Lu Chin. Director Chen's tone turned earnest and weighty. Beyond my public sentiment is very complicated right now. We can't let a moment of impulse affect the image of the entire team. Bear with it for now and calm this lady down. In any case, have her clear the way first. Saving the person is what matters most. As for the compensation issue, the Bureau will think of a way to resolve it later. What a fine bear with it. What a fine comforting emotions. In my previous life, it was because I listened to the deputy director's nonsense that I ended up with my family destroyed and my life ruined. I looked at Mrs. Lin's smug, unrestrained face, and a mocking smile curled at the corners of my lips. Director Chin. I refuse. What? Director Chun seemed unable to believe his ears. I said, I refuse to placate her emotions, and I also refuse to violate the rules. I enunciated each word clearly, my voice carrying throughout the room. There is no traffic police determination of fault at the scene, and I have no authority to damage a citizen's private property. These are the rules and regulations. And they're also what you usually teach us. Luchin, you are disobeying orders. Director Chun shouted in a panic. I reserve the right to appeal. But before the traffic police arrive, all members of First Squad are to remain on standby at their current position. After saying that, I directly hung up the phone and turned it off. Good. Very good. Mrs. Lin saw that I wouldn't even listen to the leader's words and became even more convinced that I was easy to bully. She shouted loudly at the livestream camera. Family, did you see that? What kind of behavior is this? He won't even listen to his own leader. He's nothing but a rogue soldier. If he doesn't kneel down and kowtow to me today, nobody's getting through this road. She simply sat cross-legged on the Porsche's hood, looking completely unbothered, like a pig that isn't afraid of boiling water. The surrounding crowd began to grow restless. Why is this firefighter so stubborn? Lives are at stake. Just drive through first and talk later. Exactly. Can a lousy car be worth more than a human life? Some people even began to blame me. Young man, that's way too cold-blooded of you. There are living people up there. Xiao Xiao and the other team members were criticized by the crowd until they couldn't even lift their heads, each of them with reddened eyes and fists clenched tightly. I still looked at Mrs. Lin expressionlessly. Go ahead and curse me. Curse all you want. The harder you curse now, the more satisfying it'll feel later. Just then, a burst of hurried footsteps came from the direction of the community gate. Make way. Everyone, make way. A middle-aged man in a suit with a large belly, drenched in sweat, pushed through the crowd and stumbled in, half rolling and half crawling. It was Manager Wang from the property management of Sunshine Capital Residence. He was running so fast that he tripped and fell flat right in front of Mrs. Lin's Porsche. Hey, are you blind? If you dirty my car, can you even afford to pay for it? Mrs. Lin recoiled in disgust and cursed bitterly. Manager Wang had no time to brush the dirt off himself. He scrambled up from the ground, his face as pale as paper and his lips trembling. Mrs. Lin, Mrs. Lin. He was gasping for breath, pointing at the billowing smoke above, his voice hoarse like a broken bellows. Why are you still sitting here? Why can't I sit here? Mrs. Lin rolled her eyes and straightened her skirt with complete confidence. If these poor soldiers don't pay for scratching my car, I'm staying here today. Even the King of Heaven himself can't make me move this car. It's not about the car. Manager Wang was so anxious he kept slapping his thigh, almost to the point of tears. He swallowed hard and then bellowed out a sentence that instantly brought the whole place to a dead silence. Your home is on fire. The top floor complex. Unit 801. This sentence was like a bolt of thunder, crashing hard right into the middle of the crowd. The crowd that had just been accusing me fell silent in an instant. Everyone's gaze turned in unison to Mrs. Lin's heavily powdered face. The smug look on Mrs. Lin's face instantly froze. She stared blankly at Manager Wang, as if she hadn't understood what he was saying. What the hell are you talking about? She tugged at the corners of her mouth with difficulty, forcing out a smile that looked worse than crying. My home is made with the highest-end imported fireproof materials. How could it possibly catch fire? Stop trying to scare me here. Just then, the phone Mrs. Lin had put in her bag suddenly rang crazily, as if demanding her life. The ringtone sounded especially harsh in the deathly silent air. She fumbled to take out the phone, and the screen clearly showed the 4 words, "Baby boy." Mrs. Lin's hand jolted, and she answered the call. "Hello? How? Mom, help, cough, cough, cough." From the other end of the phone came a boy's heartbreaking cry, accompanied by violent coughing and the crackling sound of flames. The fire is so big. It's all smoke. My sister and I can't get out. Mom, help, bang. Mrs. Lin's phone in her hand slammed heavily onto the ground, the screen instantly shattering into a spider web of cracks. Her whole body seemed to be drained of all strength. She slid off the Porsche's hood like a puddle of mud and collapsed onto the ground. How, my how and jiao, she murmured to herself, her gaze frighteningly hollow. The next second, she was like an enraged lioness, suddenly springing up from the ground and grabbing Manager Wang by the collar. Why did it catch fire? What are you property management even doing? I pay so much in property fees every year. And this is how you protect the residents. Shaken until he was dizzy, Manager Wang gave a face and explained, Mrs. Lin, it was your son playing with fireworks on the balcony. The sparks ignited the cardboard boxes stacked beside him. Our security noticed it right away, but your front door was locked from the inside, so we couldn't get in. Then why didn't you tell me sooner? Mrs. Lin screamed, her face covered in tears and snot. I called you more than 10 times, but your line was busy the whole time. Manager Wang said, so aggrieved he was almost in tears. In the past 15 minutes, Mrs. Lin had been busy calling her husband to complain and interacting with netizens in her live stream. How could she have had time to answer the property management's calls? Mrs. Lin completely broke down. She suddenly turned her head, her bloodshot eyes fixed fiercely on me, as if grasping the last lifeline. She stumbled and crawled to my feet, clutching my leg tightly. Firefighter comrade, Captain, please save my child. Hurry, they're only 14. Please, go save them quickly. She was crying until she was hoarse, and the arrogant, domineering air she had just now was completely gone, leaving only endless fear and despair. I looked down at her from above, my expression utterly unchanged. I slowly bent down and pried open, one by one, the fingers that were clenching tightly onto my pant leg. Mrs. Lin, please show some self-respect. My voice was so cold it held no warmth at all, yet it rang clearly through the noisy scene. Didn't you just say that a few people dying wasn't as important as your Porsche? Didn't you just say that the people who died were someone else's family, not yours? So why should you make way? With every word I spoke, Mrs. Lin's face grew a shade paler. Now, I've met your demand. I straightened up and pointed at the Porsche parked across the middle of the road. The scene hasn't been fully examined yet. The traffic police haven't come to assign responsibility. This car is too expensive. If we crashed into it, we'd be ruined and still couldn't afford the compensation. So, we didn't dare touch it. You, what did you say? Mrs. Lin slumped to the ground and stared up at me blankly, as if she were looking at an alien. I said, we didn't dare move. I repeated it once again, my tone as calm as if I were talking about today's weather. You're crazy. Mrs. Lin let out a sharp scream, her voice so piercing it nearly tore through one's eardrums. The ones burning upstairs are my son and my daughter. 2 lives. You're a firefighter. How can you just stand by and do nothing? She tried to lunge at me again, but Xiao Jiao stepped forward and blocked her with a cold expression. Ma'am, please do not obstruct us from carrying out our official duties. There was an unmistakable note of restrained satisfaction in Xiao Jiao's voice. Official duties. Your job right now is to go up there and rescue people. Mrs. Lin rolled and wailed on the ground like a madwoman. I'll give you money. Is 1 million not enough? I'll give you 2 million, 5 million. As long as you save my child, I'll give you however much you want. Panicked, she fumbled to pick up the Hermes bag that had fallen to the ground, pulled out a large handful of bank cards, and desperately tried to shove them into my hands. I stepped back and let the gold and black cards scatter all over the floor. Ms. Lin, this isn't about money. I looked at her, my eyes full of pity and mockery. We are a disciplined force and must handle everything strictly in accordance with rules and regulations. You said it yourself. If traffic police don't determine fault, then whoever dares to touch your car, you'll sue them for sexual harassment and get them stripped of this uniform and kicked out. Look, your family in the live stream room are all still watching. I pointed at the phone she had thrown onto the hood, which was still running. The barrage of comments in the live stream had completely exploded by now. Holy shit, what an earth-shattering reversal. The place burning is actually this vicious woman's own home. Serves her right. This is karma. Wasn't she just saying that a few dead people were less important than her car? The firefighter did a great job. People like that should be taught a lesson. But there are 2 children upstairs after all. Aren't you really going to rescue them? Seeing the shift in the direction of the comments, Ms. Lin was completely panicked. She scrambled over to her Porsche and actually tried to use her body to push the heavy sports car. I'm moving it right now. Hurry up and get in. But, with her tiny bit of strength, pushing against a sports car weighing 2 tons was like an ant trying to shake a tree. The Porsche didn't budge at all. The key. Where's the car key? She frantically rummaged through her bag, dumping the lipstick, perfume, and powder compact onto the ground. No. She rushed to the car door again and desperately yanked at the handle. The car door was locked. Open the door. Open the door for me. She furiously pounded on the car window with her red-polished nails. Her nails broke, and blood left shocking red marks on the glass. Ms. Lin, have you forgotten? I reminded her coldly, just now, to prevent us from forcibly moving the car. You even said the car keys were in your home, and without your permission, no one could get them. Mrs. Lin's movements froze abruptly. She slowly raised her head and looked at the room engulfed in raging flames. Her eyes filled with despair. No, impossible. I didn't. She shook her head, desperately trying to deny this cruel fact. But the pointing fingers and whispers from the crowd mercilessly shattered her illusion. She said it herself. We all heard it. Now that the moment has passed with this fire, there's no way to go in and get the key. Weren't you just acting all arrogant a moment ago, saying you wouldn't let us pass even if the key were thrown away? Now you're dumbfounded, aren't you? What a sin. Those two children are so pitiful. Listening to the crowd's murmurs, Mrs. Lin let out a shrill anguish scream and rushed toward us, scrambling and rolling in panic. As she grabbed hold of my pant leg, she broke down crying. Please, please help me, please. She lifted her face covered in mud and some unidentified filth and looked at the people around her pleadingly. But not a single person stepped forward. Everyone looked at her coldly as if they were watching a clown. Squeak. Just then, a black Maybach came to a sudden stop at the entrance of the residential complex with a piercing screech of brakes. The car door opened and a man in a high-end custom-tailored suit with a face full of coarse flesh rushed out. It was Mrs. Lin's husband. Lin Dachong. Darling, darling, you're finally here. Mrs. Lin seemed to have seen a savior and crawled and scrambled over toward him. Hurry, quickly get someone to move the car. Hao Hao and Zhao Yao are still up there. Lin Dachong had already heard the property manager report the situation over the phone, and at that moment his face was so dark it seemed water could drip from it. He glanced at the Porsche parked across the middle of the road, then looked at his wife who was kneeling on the ground covered in mud. Smack! A sharp, crisp slap rang out across the entire scene. Lin Dachong swung his arm wide and slapped Mrs. Lin hard across the face. The blow was so fierce that Mrs. Lin was sent flying, crashing heavily beside the Porsche's tire. She covered the half of her face that had swollen up high, blood trickling from the corner of her mouth, and looked at Lin Dachong in disbelief. Darling, you hit me. I hit you. You useless bitch who can't accomplish anything and only causes trouble. Lin Dachong's eyes were red with anger as he pointed at Mrs. Lin's nose and cursed her out. I'm out there busting my ass to make money, and you can't even keep an eye on the kid at home. You son of a bitch, the property management called you dozens of times, and you didn't answer, and you came downstairs to block the fire exit. Is your head full of shit? Lin Dachong trembled all over with rage and rushed over to kick Mrs. Lin in the stomach again. Mrs. Lin curled up on the ground like a shrimp in pain, letting out a piercing wail. None of the people around stepped forward to stop it. Some even quietly cheered. Mr. Lin, this isn't the time to be hitting people. I watched coldly as this dog-eat-dog farce unfolded and spoke up at just the right moment. The fire has already spread throughout the entire top floor, and an explosion could happen at any moment. Lin Dachong abruptly turned his head, rushed up to me like he was grabbing onto a life-saving straw, and dropped to his knees with a thud. Comrade firefighter, Captain Liu, I'm begging you, please go save my child. He pleaded through tears and snot, completely losing the domineering air he had when he got out of the car just moments before. As long as you can get my child out, I'll give you 5 million. Number 10 million. I took half a step back, avoiding his tug. Mr. Lin, I already explained it to your wife just now. I pointed at the Porsche parked sideways in the middle of the road. The fire truck can't get in. The hose isn't long enough, and the aerial ladder truck can't be deployed. We have no way to carry out an effective rescue. Then walk up there. Run up there. Lin Dachong shouted. 8th floor. Even if you run up there, you could still use the water pipes in the stairwell to put out the fire. Mr. Lin, we are human beings, not gods. I looked at him, my tone calm to the point of coldness. Rushing into a fire without the cover of a water gun is no different from courting death. My team members are our sons of their parents, and I can't let them sacrifice themselves in vain just because your wife is being unreasonable. In my previous life, I had led my team to forcibly break down the door and charge into the fire without water gun cover. I never want to experience again in my life the agony of having my skin seared black by raging flames in an instant, or the suffocating sensation of inhaling scorching thick smoke that tears my lungs apart. Lin Dachong froze. He glanced back at the Porsche, then at Mrs. Lin, who was lying on the ground and wailing in pain, a ruthless glint flashing in his eyes. "Smash it. Smash this damn car for me," he roared at the several bodyguards behind him. The bodyguards looked at one another, and none of them dared to make a move. This was a luxury car worth more than $2 million. If their boss regretted it afterward, they couldn't afford to pay for the damage. "Are you all fucking deaf?" I said smash it, seeing that the bodyguards would not act. Lin Dachong angrily looked around for a tool. He spotted the breaching axe beside the fire truck, his eyes lighting up, and rushed over to grab it. "Stop." Xiao Xiao reacted quickly and firmly held down the axe with one hand. "This is firefighting and rescue equipment. Unauthorized personnel are not allowed to touch it. I'm fucking going to save my child." Lin Dachong roared, his eyes bloodshot. "Mr. Lin." I stepped forward and looked at him coldly. "This car is private property under your wife's name. Before the traffic police issue a liability determination report, any act of damage is illegal. Your wife just said that if anyone dares touch her car, she'll make them lose everything. We don't dare take that risk." Lin Dachong was furious to the point of spitting blood. He pointed at me, his finger trembling uncontrollably. You're just standing by and refusing to save someone. I'm going to sue you. I'll skin you alive. Whatever." I shrugged nonchalantly. "My body camera has been on the whole time, and I've also saved your wife's live stream recording from just now. Whoever obstructed the rescue effort, the law will decide." Bang. Another deafening boom. The floor-to-ceiling window on the 8th floor balcony completely shattered, and a massive tongue of fire shot out like a venomous snake. Screams erupted from the crowd. Through the thick black smoke, 2 tiny figures could be seen faintly clinging to the window frame, desperately waving their arms. "How, Jia Jia," Lin Dajiang cried out heart-wrenchingly, trying to rush into the building, but was tightly held back by the bodyguards. Mrs. Lin also got up from the ground, looking at the children in the sea of fire, and let out a scream that was almost inhuman. "Save them, please. Save them," she frantically called out to the people around her, smashing her forehead against the asphalt road as blood streamed down. But it was too late. Everything was already too late. Tears welled up from her bloodshot eyes, washing away the makeup and grime covering her face. "It was me," she muttered to herself, then suddenly raised her hand and slapped herself over and over across the face. "It was me. It was me. I was the one in the way. I was the one who said a few people dying was not as important as the car." That exquisitely made-up face quickly swelled up, with streaks of blood seeping from the corner of her mouth. But this time, Lin Dajiang didn't hit her again, and the people around her didn't curse at her anymore, because everyone realized clearly at that moment that this woman was killing her own child with her own hands, and she had finally begun to soberly bear that pain. I raised my head and quietly looked at the sea of flames. In my previous life, it was right there that I had shielded those 2 children with my own body. But the child, under her mother's instigation, accused me on the spot of molesting her in the chaos. And now, I can only watch them pay the price for their mother's arrogance and stupidity. Siren sounds grew closer, and 2 traffic police motorcycles and a police car from the local station finally managed to squeeze through the congested streets on the outskirts and stop at the entrance to the residential complex. What happened? Who called the police? The traffic police officer leading the team boldly walked over drenched in sweat. After seeing the scene clearly, he drew in a sharp breath. What's going on here? The floor above is burning like that. So, why haven't you gone in yet? I pointed at the Porsche parked across the middle of the road, then at Mrs. Lin. who was kneeling on the ground and bowing repeatedly like pounding garlic. Officer Lee. This Mrs. Lin claims our fire truck scratched her Porsche, demands $1 million in compensation, and refuses to move her car. To protect the scene, I can only wait for you to come and assign responsibility. Old Lee glanced at the barely visible scratch on the Porsche's bumper, then looked up at the flames soaring from upstairs, his face turning livid with anger. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. He turned and glared angrily at Mrs. Lin and Lin Dachong. Do you know what kind of offense blocking a fire lane is? This is the crime of endangering public safety. At this point, Lin Dachong could no longer care about the charge. Officer, I admit fault. I take full responsibility. Please have them move the cars away quickly and save my child. Old Lee shook him off and immediately picked up the walkie-talkie. Command Center. At the Sunshine Capital Residential Complex fire scene. A Porsche is illegally parked and blocking the fire lane. The owner refuses to cooperate and move the vehicle. We hereby determine that this vehicle bears full responsibility. Request immediate dispatch of a tow truck to assist. At the same time, allow the fire department to take force-breaching measures. With the traffic police's clear instructions, I no longer hesitated. All personnel of First Squad. I barked sternly. Yes, sir. The team members all straightened their backs in unison, their eyes burning with long-suppressed rage. Xiao Jiao, take some men and smash the window. Release the handbrake by force. The Lu, connect the hose. Get ready to provide cover. Everyone else, with me. Yes. Xiao Jiao lifted the breach axe and rushed toward the pink Porsche without hesitation. Bang! With a deafening crash, the window of the sports car worth more than $2 million was smashed to pieces. Xiao Jiao reached in and forcibly released the electronic parking brake. Then, several team members worked together to push the heavy sports car, inch by inch, into the roadside green belt. The fire lane was finally cleared. Raised the ladder truck. Used the high-pressure water cannon to suppress the fire. As I issued commands, I put on my self-contained breathing apparatus, grabbed a fire axe, and took the lead as we charged into the smoke-filled hallway. The 8th floor, the hallway was already completely filled with thick smoke, with visibility of less than half a meter. The intense heat made the skin inside my protective suit sting with waves of pain. Captain, the security door is deadlocked from the inside. The temperature is too high. The breaching tool can't get in. The Lu shouted anxiously over the comms. I touched the scorching hot door handle and took a deep breath. Used the cutter. Cut into the lock. Sparks flew everywhere. 5 minutes later, the heavy anti-theft door came crashing down. A wave of scorching heat hit us in the face, forcing us back several steps. The fire inside had already completely spiraled out of control. The expensive imported solid wood furniture had become fuel for the flames, and the entire living room had turned into a sea of fire. Water cannon cover. Search for survivors. I pushed through the sheet of water, struggling toward the balcony. In my previous life, I found those 2 children in the corner of the balcony. Back then, in order to protect them, I took off my fireproof suit and shielded them tightly beneath me. And this time, I strictly followed the operating procedures and did not take off any protective gear. Captain, over here. Xiao Xiao signaled from the bedroom on the right. I quickly moved over. There I saw 2 children huddled tightly together, curled up in the corner of the wardrobe. They had already been rendered unconscious by the thick smoke, and their clothes were burned in many places, exposing skin that was bloody and mangled. Quick, get them out. Xiao Xiao and I each picked up a child and turned to rush outside. Burning debris kept falling from the ceiling overhead, and under the high temperature, the water hoses seemed woefully inadequate. When we finally burst out of the building and laid the 2 children flat on the ambulance stretcher, Mrs. Lin and Lin Dachong came rushing over like mad. How, Jia Jia, looking at her son's face, horribly burned beyond recognition. Mrs. Lin let out a piercing anguish scream. Her eyes rolled back, and she fainted on the spot. Lin Dachong's legs also went weak. He collapsed to his knees beside the stretcher and burst into loud sobs. Doctor, please save them. Use the best medicine. I'm willing to pay any amount. The emergency doctor quickly examined the 2 children. his expression extremely grave. Severe burns accompanied by serious inhalation injuries. We've missed the best window for rescue. The situation is very dangerous. Send them to the burn department of the city hospital immediately. The ambulance wailed away into the distance. I took off my helmet and gulped in the fresh air, looking at the scene strewn with wreckage and that Porsche smashed beyond recognition. I felt nothing at all. The debt from my past life was finally paid off today. Outside the burn surgery intensive care unit at the City Central Hospital, the air was thick with the pungent smell of disinfectant and a suffocating silence. Lin Dachong sat slumped in a plastic chair, his hands buried in his hair as if he had aged 10 years overnight. Mrs. Lin had gauze wrapped around her head with a dazed look in her eyes. She stared fixedly at the tightly closed ICU door, muttering under her breath, "It's all their fault. They deliberately delayed time. If they had gone up sooner, my child wouldn't have been burned like this." She suddenly raised her head, a vicious gleam flashing in her eyes. Yes, it was that firefighter surnamed Liu. He just stood by and did nothing. I'm going to expose him. I'm going to make him pay with my son's life. Like a madwoman, she pulled out a backup phone from her bag and opened Weibo with trembling fingers. She skillfully edited a long, tearful post accusing the fire department of deliberately delaying rescue efforts over a minor dispute, causing her 2 children to suffer severe burns and fight for their lives. She also attached several photos from the scene. A fire truck parked motionless downstairs, firefighters standing by and doing nothing, and her kneeling on the ground bowing her head in desperation. These photos were all screenshots taken from her live stream, shot from extremely selective angles that completely concealed the fact that she had blocked the fire lane. Sent. Seeing the Weibo post successfully go out, Mrs. Lin's face revealed a twisted look of satisfaction. That bastard Liu ruined my family, and I'm going to make you lose everything and be disgraced. Just half an hour later, the post titled Hearts of Stone. Fire captain stands by and does nothing. All because of a car-scratching dispute completely exploded across the internet. Netizens who did not know the truth were enraged. How terrifying. Is this still the protector of the people? Joking with people's lives over such a trivial matter. This kind of person must be executed. Dox him. Uncover all the information about his entire family. The fury of public opinion surged toward me like a tsunami. In the director's office, Director Chun angrily slammed a printed Weibo screenshot onto my face. "Luchin, look at the mess you've made. This is what you call strictly following rules and regulations. Now the whole internet is calling our fire department heartless executioners who treat human life like grass. Do you know that the city leaders just called personally to ask about this matter and demanded a thorough investigation to the bitter end?" I calmly bent down and picked up the paper from the floor, brushing off the dust on it. "Director Chin, please don't be angry yet. She can post whatever she wants. We have our own evidence." I took a USB flash drive out of my pocket and gently placed it on Director Chen's desk. Inside are the full recordings from my body camera, as well as videos shot by bystanders and testimony from the property management of the residential complex. Most importantly, Mrs. Lin was live streaming herself at the time, and I also had the technical department record the screen in full and save it. Director Chun froze for a moment, shot me a suspicious look, and inserted the USB drive into the computer. As the video played, Director Chen's expression changed from anger to shock, and finally to a deep, dark scowl. In the video, Mrs. Lin's arrogant and domineering expression, her vicious curses, and the scene where she personally admitted that the car keys were at home and no one could take them were all crystal clear. This is simply turning the tables. Utterly unreasonable. Director Chun slammed his hand on the desk in anger. "Contact the publicity department immediately. Post these videos exactly as they are on the official account. The fire brigade absolutely cannot be made to take this blame." 10 minutes later, the official Weibo account of the fire department posted a notice titled, "A serious statement regarding the fire rescue operation at Sunshine Capital Residential Community." The notice contained no unnecessary words, only an unedited video lasting 20 minutes. At the beginning of the video, there was Mrs. Lin's extremely arrogant remark, "Are a few dead people more important than my Porsche?" Then came the full sequence of her blocking the fire truck, insulting the crew members, and forcing me to kneel. The truth was laid bare. The online public opinion instantly took a shocking turn. Netizens who had just been harshly criticizing me were completely enraged by Mrs. Lin's shamelessness and viciousness after watching the video. Holy crap, is this woman a devil or something? She blocked the fire exit herself, caused her own house to burn down, and still dares to turn around and accuse others online. Does she have no shame? Heartbroken for the firefighter guy, being yelled at by this shrew right in the face, and still managing to stay restrained. That's incredibly hard. People like her should be locked up and have the key thrown away. Obstructing firefighting and rescue operations is a crime. Mrs. Lin's Weibo comment section was instantly overrun by furious netizens. Countless insults and curses drowned her out. Some people even dug up Lin Dachang's company and went to the building downstairs to start live streaming. Bang! Outside the ICU ward, Lin Dachang looked at the company's stock on his phone, which kept plummeting, and in a fit of rage smashed the phone to pieces. You look at the mess you've made. He rushed over, grabbed Mrs. Lin by the hair, and slammed her hard against the wall. The company's cash flow has broken. All the partners have terminated their contracts. I'm going bankrupt. Mrs. Lin was beaten until her face was covered in blood. Yet, she still refused to admit defeat. No, impossible. Clearly, it was them who refused to save him. You dare to argue back? Lin Dachang roared in despair, pulled the document out of his pocket, and hurled it fiercely at Mrs. Lin's face. Divorce agreement. Sign it right now, you jinx. If you want to die, don't drag me down with you. Mrs. Lin looked at the divorce agreement and finally realized how serious the situation was. She scrambled over and clung to Lin Dachang's leg. Honey, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Please don't leave me. Get lost. Lin Dachang kicked her aside and left the hospital without looking back. Just then, 2 uniformed police officers walked up to Mrs. Lin. Mrs. Lin Baoju, you are suspected of the crimes of obstructing the performance of official duties, picking quarrels and provoking trouble, and endangering public safety. Please come with us. With a cold click, the handcuffs were locked onto Mrs. Lin's wrists. She stared blankly at the silver medal on her wrist, then suddenly burst into wild laughter as if she had gone mad. I wasn't wrong. I'm Mrs. Lin. What right do you have to arrest me? The police ignored her crazy behavior and forcibly took her away. 3 days later, the 2 children, due to severe injuries, were unable to be rescued and passed away one after another. Under the enormous blow, Lin Dachang suffered a sudden cerebral hemorrhage and was left paralyzed on one side. Lin's building materials declared bankruptcy. As for Mrs. Lin, after learning all of this in the detention center, she completely lost her sanity. It is said that every day she would cut out to the wall in her cell, muttering, "My Porsche, my Hao and Xiao." Half a month later, I walked into the visiting room of the detention center, wearing my sharp, neat everyday uniform. On the other side of the glass wall, Mrs. Lin was wearing a prison uniform. Her hair was dull and yellow, and her gaze was unfocused. She no longer had the glamorous, jewel-laden look she once did. When she saw me, she trembled all over, then suddenly threw herself against the glass, frantically pounding on it with her handcuffed hands. It's you. You killed my child. You murderer. I looked at her calmly and picked up the phone in front of me. Lin Baoju, do you still think it was my fault now? My voice came through the receiver, clear and distinct in her ears. In fact, if you hadn't stopped the fire truck that day, your house wouldn't have caught fire at all. Mrs. Lin froze, staring at me intently. Your son set a cardboard box on fire with fireworks. The property management discovered it as soon as the blaze started. If the fire truck had been able to enter the neighborhood smoothly, the fire could have been put out within 10 minutes. It was you who personally cut off your child's last way out. Don't you love your Porsche the most? It's now in the junkyard, turned into a pile of scrap metal. With every word I said, Mrs. Lin's face turned a shade grayer. No, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. She painfully covered her ears, desperately shaking her head, tears and snot streaming down her face. It was you. I stood up and looked down at her from above, my gaze as cold as a knife. You killed your own child with your own hands and ruined your family. In this world, no one can atone for your sins. You can only carry this guilt and slowly suffer in hell. After saying that, I hung up the phone and turned to walk outside. Behind me came Mrs. Lynn's piercing, shrill scream, as if her throat had been torn apart by a beast. I pushed open the gate of the detention center, and blinding sunlight poured down, taking a deep breath of fresh air. I took out my phone and dialed the number I had been thinking about day and night. Hello, Mom. Chen. How come you have time to call Mom today? Are you tired from work? On the other end of the phone came my mother's gentle and healthy voice. Tears instantly blurred my vision. Mom, I'm not tired. I smiled and wiped the tears from the corners of my eyes, striding toward the sunlight. I'm coming home for dinner tonight. I'm craving the braised pork belly you make. The end.